Hi, I'm Catherine Reid Day, and coming up next on the St. Paul Forum, I'm speaking with Polly Talen of the Knight Foundation and Yuri Sands of 2 Dance. That's next on the St. Paul Forum. Welcome to the St. Paul Forum. I'm Catherine Reid Day, and joining me today are Polly Talen of the Knight Foundation and Yuri Sands of 2 Dance. Welcome, you two. Thank you for joining us today.
Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're going to start with you, Polly, because what we want to talk about is the Knight Foundation and its amazing investment in St. Paul that's just happened. But first, I think people need to understand, why is there a Knight Foundation and why is it associated with St. Paul in particular?
Good, yes. We're often here locally confused with McKnight Foundation, as you might imagine. We're actually very similarly sized foundations, but with completely different footprints. Knight Foundation, it's actually the full name is the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, headquartered down in Florida, working in the 26 communities where the Knight brothers had newspapers at one point in time. So back when there was a Knight Ridder Corporation and there was Knight Ridder newspapers, St. Paul was part of that. And so St. Paul's part of this collection of 26 and part of a collection of 8, 7 plus Miami, where we actually have a program director like me.
Okay. And, you know, it's so interesting to me, this footprint of the incredible tradition of newspapers and the journalists and the founders of these newspapers who have made a big difference in their communities. Where did that philanthropic decision come from, do you think, as you understand the history of those 2 brothers and why they made these into foundations?
Yeah, I think part of it stemmed from a very strong commitment to the community and to recognition that the community is only as good as the news and information it has in the community. But what can a community do once they have that news and information? It activates people's engagement, civic involvement. And so it's really that this is an effort sort of over the long haul to really support both of those things. There's a great quote from our founder about the news enabling people to act in their own true interest. And I really feel like really we're living that legacy they left of enabling people to have good information so they can in fact act in their own true interest. And so then the other support we do besides our support in journalism and media innovation is in this direct community work as well as in the arts. And both of them feel very much about folks acting in their own true interest. And
you've just made a phenomenal announcement as a foundation. Our city has been selected for this great big investment. We have Yuri here because his organization is one of the beneficiaries, so we're going to get to that in just a minute. But tell us about this big investment.
Yeah, so we just announced at the end of January an $8 million commitment over the next 5 years. It's really a 2-part commitment where $3.5 million went to 5 what we're calling institutional partners.
And what are those 5 partnerships that you funded?
Yeah, so one of them is 2 Dance, St. Paul Chamber Orchestra for their work with their online digital library, Springboard for the Arts, Penumbra in support of their major strategic plan over the next 5 years.
And a major transition of
major
leadership.
Transition to Sarah Bellamy, very excited to be supporting as part of that. And the 5th is actually to the Arts Partnership, which is all of the organizations who are housed at the Ordway in support of an effort to provide subsidies to smaller and mid-sized arts organizations to perform in the new space that's going to be opening a year from now. In addition to the institutional grants, we're opening up a challenge. We're inviting folks starting in April to come to us with their good ideas, small or large, very small criteria for the challenge, but it's going to be, we're going to give away $4.5 million over the next 3 years. And it's really an effort to, unlike the institutional partners where we work with folks over a number of years, it's really to surface, sort of have folks opt in. Tell us about your great ideas.
And get something going in the community.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about 2 Dance, because 2 Dance is how old now? It's
10 years.
10
We're celebrating
years.
10 years
That's
this season.
fantastic. And this is the 10th season now.
That's correct.
And you and Tony founded the company, is
That's
that
correct.
right? So, and tell us a little bit about the mission and the vision of your company.
Sure. You know, the company, again, founded by Tony Pierce Sands. And I always have to kind of preface it, you know, that's the T of the Two Dance. And
Right.
me being Yuri. And, you know, I think one of the things that Tony and I always thought about when we decided to even start a dance company was we took an assessment, probably similarly to how Knight Foundation looked at the city, but we looked at the city and the Twin Cities at large, and we had such amazing careers, and we felt so blessed to have had the opportunities that we had as performers and dancers, and we want to give back to an art form that has given us so much. And so when we came here to the Twin Cities, and we live in St. Paul, we're housed in St. Paul, our organization is based on University Avenue in St. Paul. We looked at the Twin Cities and St. Paul in particular and said, what is it that we can do for such a vibrant community? You know, what does it need? What is it calling for? What do we believe that we can fully give to a city that fully supports its artists? And we decided to start the vision of Two Dance, which is really just about accessibility. It's kind of simple. You know, we feel like dance has the power to really be able to transform lives because it transformed Tony and my life. And so we just want to ensure that as many people as possible have the opportunity to be able to experience that transformative power.
Of their body and their movement expressing ideas and connecting to others?
That's right. You know, I mean, and this whole transformative, this whole connectivity aspect can be through them taking classes at the Two Dance Center. It could be through who they sit with in the theater when they watch a Two Dance performance. You know, it could be some of the community classes that we might do around St. Paul. You know, all of these opportunities to experience dance, not just by, in addition to being with the body and you taking the classes yourself, but just all of these opportunities we feel are very important. And we wanted to make sure that as many people could really have these opportunities to dance, to see dance, to experience dance in multiple ways.
Right, and if you've never been to a Two Dance performance, you must put it on your calendar. It's inspiring. Let's go back to this big decision to invest in these 5 organizations, because these are very large investments that you're making. What was the thinking behind both the kind of investment you wanted to make and the kind of organizations that you chose? How did you make that decision?
Yeah.
What is it you're trying to help us understand?
Really trying to do a couple things. One is we were interested in building on some relationships we had developed over the last number of years. Partners who seemed eager to experiment, eager to take their work to another level, and always with foundation investments, you're trying to figure out sort of where can you make the biggest difference. And so part of it was that. Given our experience with number of these organizations, we really felt like they were ready and we were ready to invest in them. By making a 5-year commitment, it really is giving them a chance, giving them some leash, giving them some chance to experiment, to not worry about sort of, well, what does Knight think about it this year? Are we going to come back next year? And to really allow them during that time to build on what they've learned from the previous years and what they want to do, sort of help really activate their own vision about the work. So that was really what sort of that bundle of things, sort of that multi-year commitment, the strength of the partners, the vision of those partners, and really wanting to help activate the vision that we felt a multi-year commitment could help.
Right. And it seems to me that there's a lot about access in what you're doing, not exclusively, but the other partners that you funded include Penumbra Theater and includes the Ordway, specifically to bring some new give access to some organizations that may not have performed on that stage?
Exactly. With the new space that will be opening, I think, in February, a year from now, it's really to help subsidize the costs. It's expensive for a small organization, medium-sized organizations, to hold to perform at the Ordway, and so it's to take care of some of those costs. The St. Paul Chamber Orchestra grant is really about them experimenting and accelerating their already very impressive online library of digital music. So the Springboard for the Arts, it's in some ways to build on the great things they do here to help bring some of that to other night communities.
Great. And now let's talk about, I know from the perspective, when you heard about this opportunity to even consider making this application, that it was kind of an invitational, as I understand it.
Yes.
So you
We were
had it-
shocked, actually. I saw him shortly afterwards.
Was he?
He's like, what?
Oh, sure.
Yes,
Yes, indeed.
Because it was a big. I mean, you're a fairly small organization. You're really. I mean, you're two. You two co-lead it. You have how many other people directly involved in the
Yes,
organization?
we consider ourselves a lights and tights organization. Just a very, very minimal overhead to operate the organization. At times, that makes us very flexible and allows for us to be a bit more maneuverable. But it also comes with its challenges when you have such limited capacity. And I think with the Knight Foundation support over the next 5 years for Two Dance, it actually addresses one of those particular aspects of the capacity of the organization. It allows for us to be able to bring in a dedicated fundraising consultant, as well as it allows for us to continue the program expansion of the Two Dance Center, which has started to gain a lot of momentum. So these are the timing of the Knight Foundation support is just really game-changing for an organization of our size.
Right. And when you're the kind of students that are showing up for your classes, I mean, do they mostly come without any experience? The kind of people you want to come through that door and the kind of accessibility you're talking about, what does that look like? What does it feel like?
Well, we are really proud of the diverse mix of students that we have enrolled at our center and in our programs. One of the things about the accessibility is that we found at times that the arts sometimes be limited, or that it could be only designated for those who could potentially afford it, and we wanted to ensure that some of the economic barriers were removed. And so that's been a concerted effort of Tony and myself to make sure that a lot of these people from either lower income families or different difficult situations still had access to the arts and still had a chance to develop their talents. The diversity of the student body in our center is just special, it's really special. And along with this accessibility and this diversity, we always felt like the Twin Cities, even though it's so landlocked, it was one of the most diverse communities that we've ever seen. I mean, we're just talking about cultures from all over the world,
Really?
make their home here in the Twin Cities. What is it that we can do as an organization to ensure that we have a company and an organization that's as reflective as its community is, So you look on stage and you see a variation of people and skin tones and cultures, just as you would if you go outside, And that's the same thing that happens with our student body. So it's that effort for Tony and I, we're happy to see that manifesting as we go into year 3 of our school. So
Is
the
it
school
already
is,
year 3? Yeah.
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Yes,
And
indeed.
it is a beautiful facility that they've created. How did you look at the fact that they had this facility too? Was that important in the thinking, or what
We
were
had
some of the
actually
things?
been there were a number of folks who had supported this sort of early, even just exploration about the feasibility of having a center. So we had already, this just seemed like sort of taking that support to another level, sort of go from supporting them, exploring having a center, how can they staff it, how much of Tony's time is at the university, how much of it is in the center, how to go about all those things, how much is that exit door going to cost, I mean, all of those kinds of things. So I think it really served as they're really walking the plan that they laid out to us really a couple years ago, which is a really exciting thing to see it just happening.
That it's not just on paper, as you
Yeah.
say. When you think about the arts and this community. What is it that why do you believe that it can make a change?
Yeah.
And what does that change look like
Yeah,
in
well,
your
first,
eyes?
we've done this challenge and these kind of institutional partner grants in 3 other communities so far, in Philadelphia, in Detroit, and Miami. And so the question was sort of where next? And I'm delighted that our trustees agreed to have St. Paul be next. And one of the reasons was that there is a strong commitment here. The Mayor Coleman has obviously made arts and culture an important part of his leadership in this city. So we felt like we were building on good things. We weren't starting from scratch. But we also felt that in the way we were doing our grant making for the last 4 years, we were only able to sort of find out about who we already know about, who I knew about, make some sort of the standard folks that you might expect to come to the table were coming to the table. And this is really a chance to find out about all the other folks who may be part of nonprofits. They might be individual artists. They might be working in a for-profit and really wanting to bring us a great idea, something they as individual artists may be interested in doing. So it was really to just cast the net really wide in a community that already had a very strong reputation for a very strong nonprofit arts community.
Right.
And this felt like just a chance to kind of put that on steroids and really help us really see sort of all that St. Paul has to offer.
Let's hear. If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Polly Talen of the Knight Foundation and Yuri Sands of To Dance. So these doors are being opened up, and how do you think that might even connect to the kinds of students, the people who are coming to these 5 institutions? Do you think there will be a connection? Do you think there are students of yours who might hear, or members of your dance company who've had an idea that they haven't seen the potential for? I mean, I just kind of curious if you think that's going to land in their minds as they start to hear about it, or if you think they're so absorbed. I'm just kind of curious who's going to show up at the door.
Well, first of all, we there aren't we're not going to say, oh well, we already gave to To Dance. So
Right.
if you have any association with To Dance, sorry, that's it's really open. That's not a problem. We expect some people will submit more than one application. It's going to be very easy to do, and so we'll probably hear a number of ideas that various folks have. What we've learned from our other communities is that often we end up supporting things that folks have sort of always wanted to get to but hadn't quite figured out how to support. We've also found out that some of them, once they heard about this, they then started talking to other people and then concocted the idea together with a number of different artists. We've also learned from some of the research we've done on our past challenges that even things that we don't end up supporting, because the sort of the planning and the talking and the organizing ended up being a catalyst, that some of these projects went on anyway, even if they didn't garner Knight support. So it's been a real interesting mix.
So it just ignites people.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if the match is, if people are at all concerned about that, because any dollars that they do receive from the challenge, they do need to match.
Right. So yeah, the three rules are: it has to be about art, it has to benefit St. Paul, and it has to be matched. I think that the match will probably influence perhaps the scope of things people propose to us based on sort of who and how they think they might get that matching funds. One of the things that I love about this project is that, about this initiative, and as I've seen in our other communities, some of these grants are going to be quite small, and some of them are going to be quite large. So it's that range, and I think in some cases the match will be exactly what activates that. I think also one of the benefits of doing this for the next 3 years, is that folks will see that other folks got this grant and that, wow, I should have applied. Why did I've always, so that people who don't think of themselves involved in formal philanthropy might have opted out. But once they see that we actually are serious, we really are interested in not only supporting nonprofits, but also in individual artists or for-profits doing quality arts, that helps people realize that, oh, this is something I can participate in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exciting. So when you think about, there's in addition to this funding, Knight has been one of the members of the group working on the opening of the Green Line and the change of the Central Corridor, which is again something very intentional that you had on your minds when you located where you did. Let's talk just a little bit about that kind of accessibility. What do you think that change of the light rail coming through and that those tracks will no longer just be a barrier, they'll be a part of your life now? How do you see it?
Well, the Two Dance Center's location was for sure a deliberate move. And when you speak about the access, Catherine, I think one of the things for Tony and I and our accessibility to the art form also was about practical terms. It's just, can you get there? How easily accessible is it for us to get there? Can we get there via public transportation? How close are you to the main thoroughfares that connect the two cities, or to the eastern suburbs? How close are you? So with the Green Line opening up, I just think that is just going to be, the anticipation that we have around that is great, because we really believe that could really make the entire corridor just simply fluid. The things that you may not have done before, you might take a chance to do now because of the ease of which you can transport from one place to another. And so we're just really looking forward to that. And this Two Dance Center being located right on that line is pretty special.
It is.
Yeah, we got in when the getting was good.
Exactly, before it got even more exciting. But there's still a little chance for people to get in. But you're right, your timing was fantastic. And so now what you kind of picture is that students may come from all over, as well as clearly you're not doing performances at the center. It's a teaching center.
That's correct.
So it's not a place for the performance, but it does connect you to performance sites.
Absolutely.
Because it gets you close. You can get to the downtown sites. You've performed at, I presume, at the Ordway,
Yes.
at O'Shaughnessy, at
Coles.
Yes. Those have been your three venues?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So all of those are, I guess St. Kate's is the least accessible of those, the O'Shaughnessy, but.
And actually, your performance this coming up.
That's right, May 10th at the Ordway.
It's at the Ordway?
Ordway.
Okay,
Yes.
May 10th.
And really, that's a great example of that grant we're making to support smaller organizations to be in that venue. That was huge for you folks, that first time you performed at the Ordway.
Absolutely, and the mayor came out, Mayor Coleman, and he did our curtain speech for the organization, and the house at the Ordway was packed.
Yeah,
And
you sold out that, didn't you?
Yes, yes, and the energy of the community we just felt. The support of the community we felt, and I think that's one of the things that Tony and I really just feel very grateful for, is just with the Knight Foundation and the City of St. Paul, that they just have embraced this effort and this vision that we have for dance to ensure that as many people as possible have access to it, to the art form. And they've supported that, they've supported it in consistent manners, so we're just really, really fortunate. And the challenge grant as well, that it allows the doors to be opened up for so many other bright ideas, so many other different artists or artistic thinkers to really have a chance to move some of their own initiatives forward. I just think that's just great, and such a catalyst for the arts here in St. Paul. So it's really exciting.
I'd like to just talk for a second about what you think the role of the individual artist performer is, and what can they do, how do they speak in a sense, or what can they do to engage people in the community? I'm kind of curious from the standpoint of I'm very interested in how your artists talk about learning to dance as themselves. That's been something you've talked about. And what do you think that does in terms of contributing to the larger idea of being a creative in the community?
Well, one of the things, again, with Tony and I always have to bring it back to Tony and I because, the conversations that we have together is really trying to find a way to empower the artists and the students that we actually work with. We don't feel like we so much teach them anything or really even guide them, but we just try to illuminate for them what they already possess and let them take the steps to really unpacking their own gifts and their own talents. And so what I believe this whole Knight Arts Challenge, the support that the Knight has given to St. Paul, as well as our efforts as artists being supported by Knight, is really about the individuals that are going to be able to really realize their own contributions to the community. You know, how can we help? How can we help illuminate them, illuminate their own gifts? How can we help support them as a center, you know, to develop their gifts or to be stimulated in a different way where they might start dancing, but they say, okay, I'm going to be a dance goer. You know, it's not about me being a professional
Right.
dancer, but it's about me being someone who's in support of dance or support of the arts, you know, or they go and they see a performance at the Ordway, and then they go and see the SPCO at the Ordway the next time because they started with two dance, you know. So I just really think, again, with the Knight funding and the dedicated support that the City of St. Paul has for the arts as being a true component and a vibrant part of its community, I'm just really excited about how it's all going to unfold. And, you know, I have no real hypotheses here, but I'm just really excited about what happens. I'm just waiting to see it all unpack and unfold.
So as you, so one of your hopes is clearly that people get very excited about these events coming up. April is when they start
Yes,
looking.
April 7th. People can go to www.knightarts.org. There's actually already information on there. There's a very nice frequently asked questions and just exactly the kind of questions folks are starting to wonder about. Well, what do they think about this? The advantage is St. Paul gets we get to benefit from having done this in a couple other communities, and so we able to anticipate some of those questions, if you will. So it'll open April 7th. It'll close May 5th. About midway through that time, when folks are starting to wonder, should I really do this? And I'm kind of meant to. Actually, a couple of my colleagues are coming up from Miami. We're going to hold some community meetings, and we'll be very public about those dates. And just give people a chance to ask questions or review some of the things that we've learned from previous challenges. The key thing to know about that period from April 7th to May 5th is that we're only asking for 150 words.
Yeah, just
we don't want proposals. This isn't for proposal writers. This is for folks to share their idea very succinctly. In fact, it's been encouraged that you don't even mention how much money you want at that point because you don't want to waste the number of characters for that. You just let us know what your idea is. And then what we do is we have a group of local folks reading those and turn around and invite a group of finalists who we then ask for a little bit more information, a more complete proposal.
Fabulous.
And then we'll be announcing the winners in September.
Fantastic. And Yuri, if they want to find out either about classes or the performance that's coming up, where do they go?
www.2dance.org. And there they'll be able to find all the information about the center, the classes that we hold there, and the programming that we do, as well as they'll be able to find information about our upcoming performances at the Ordway, May 10th.
Okay. And you also have a Facebook page.
That's correct.
That also mentions classes and
Absolutely.
also kind of promotes some of the news that's going on. So that's just 2Dance.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, that's 2Dance Facebook
And
page.
so there's a lot to look forward to. I really am glad you could join us. That's all we have time for. Come join us again on the St. Paul Forum.